Hello and welcome to another episode of the Expanse Abridged Podcast series. Today we've got chapter 31, which is a Holden chapter from Leviathan Awakes, the first book in the series. Now, the last time we were hanging out with our boys, our goons, they'd seen all these weird zombies that Protogenic kind of knocked up on Ceres, and they were basically trying to get out. And they were doing this big escape route because they saw some professional mercenaries who were different to kind of the mercenaries that have been hounding people into the chambers to get dosed up with radiation and the drug. There were some professionals who were trying to escape. They were like, let's follow those boys. And the entire time they're doing that, our lads are covered in radiation and they're slowly falling apart. So this chapter opens with that in particular. So something was moving in Holden's gut. He ignored it and tried to follow Miller. And they've been basically following that gang down the corridor, always keeping the same amount of distance so they don't get shot, because anyone that is going near them is getting shot immediately, and they've already walked past a couple of bodies. And as they're kind of escaping the the asteroid, they're moving further and further out to where the ships would be. They're still encountering zombies, so the people that are like throwing up everywhere, and they're kind of talking about why. And it's Miller thinks he doesn't think enough of the molecule was present originally. They're probably incubated some elsewhere, and are using that to kind of infect more people throughout the station. And Holden's kind of surmising the same thing, that it's already gone to shit effectively, the experiment, so let's just throw it out everywhere and just infect everybody at random rather than the controlled way. So they're kind of running along, and as they notice they're going there, these mercenaries sometimes meet a different group of people and they'll argue about something, and they're just trying to figure out what they're really going on about, because they can't figure it out, but they're not as confident as they should be on the way out. And the entire time they're doing it, both of them are falling apart. There'll be blood leaking from the nose. Holden's having to stuff a t-shirt up his nose, and there's just wet things coming off them. It's pretty grim. And they're kind of moving along, and then they get cornered by a zombie themselves. A lone figure, Miller kind of walks out to him, hand held out, in a cop-like gesture, saying, "This is a dangerous place to be wandering around, sir." And the guy immediately starts running towards them. We're moving towards him at a lurch, and brown vomit is trickling from his mouth down the front of his suit. Miller moves to shoot him. Holden stops him. Says, "If you want to come on my ship, you're gonna have to put that gun away for now." And it's he's still coming towards us. It's like Holden's like, "Walk faster. If you shoot anyone else, and I haven't given you permission to, you don't get a ride on my ship." He says, "You want on the Rossi? I'm the boss then. No questions, no bullshit." Which Miller goes, "Yes, sir," after smiling. He just respects the energy there. And they both move on, and Holden can still hear the guy crying. And I think that's a thing with some of the zombies in this, because they're kind of infected. They'll be like crying, and they'll be, particularly you see it later on, whispering about their previous lives and talking about it. It's pretty dark, because it kind of raises the thing about their consciousness. They kind of stop moving again. Holden's falling apart. He can feel wet in his boot and various things. He starts hugging Misko and Marisco. Was it Misko? Yeah, Marisco. Yeah, fuck it, that's fine. Misko and Marisco, which is the little kind of animation he was talking about a couple of chapters ago that he liked, and him and Miller do the tunes. He starts thinking about a certain episode, hugging the tune, Miller hugs as well, and then he slams into Miller's back because he wasn't paying attention, and you can see the mercenaries further ahead are split into two groups, and we're having an argument in the middle of the corridor. And as he's like broken his nose on Miller's face, and it's about his membranes are getting weak. He's got weak membranes, folks. Weak membranes. The radiation's kind of burned through them. And he's looking at them, and he realises some of the group are in different kind of uniform to the others. So some of them look more professional, which is like the guys that are probably going to get out while the others aren't. And they're kind of taking the piss, going, "I wonder what they're saying to each other. Like, hey, can I override too? No, you guys have to stay here. Keep an eye on all these zombies, please." And as they're laughing to each other, Miller and Holden, the other tides start shooting at each other with fully automatic weapons at blank range. Men screamed and flew apart, spraying the corridor on each other with blood and body parts. And as they kind of shoot each other, they then separate in this corridor they were in, moving either way. And it's kind of corridors getting blown apart, all the corpses getting blown apart, and our guys are kind of watching it and go, "Shit, our ship is on the other side of that corridor." So yep, typical. This part, I don't know, it seems a bit contrived. It's kind of this chapter in general. Effectively, then they realise they can't run through it because they'll die. Is there another option? They check their phones. They said that they assumed they'd wait an hour, but it's been 53 minutes since the deadline. Their phones still aren't working. They can't ring them. The network's down. They're kind of doing the maths in their head. It's like they look like there are 80 guys in the corridor, 40 either side. It's only 3 meters across. They're still going to get shot if they try and run through. like they're still withdrawing, but they're still like shooting down the corridor, so they can try and wait, but they've said they don't have the time. Holden's starting to leak again from his nose, and his stomach is going nauseous. And he's then as they're kind of worrying about this, 4 men arrive behind them, but only 2 with helmets, just the right amount. And they kind of come around with guns, don't really know what's going on, so they're not kind of armed. Miller goes, "I didn't dress real warm," almost apologetically. It took Holden half a second to understand what he meant. So I think that's basically him saying it's about to get real hot. And then basically both of them just unload their ammunition at those guys. Holden blows off a guy's head, and then they loot the bodies. But by this point, Holden is like, Miller reloads his pistol, ready to start shooting again. Holden just gives up. He said Holden didn't bother reloading his. He was done with gunfights. He put the empty pistol in his pocket and got up to join the cop. He bent down and began unbuckling the least damaged armour he could find. Miller raised an eyebrow but didn't move to help. "We're making a run for it," Holden said, swallowing back the vomit and blood taste in his throat as he pulled the chest and back armour free of the first man. "But maybe if we wear this stuff, it will help." "Might," Miller said. And basically they undo it, but it takes them ages because their hands are falling apart by the point their skin, and they've gone weak, and they keep trying to stop themselves throwing up. Miller throws down the radio, "Hey, we're coming out the corridor, don't shoot, we're coming to join up," hoping that half don't shoot at us. And then they run, but as they start running, they realise how ill they are. So it was dishearteningly slow. His legs felt like they were filled with lead, like he was running in a pool of water, like he was in a nightmare. He couldn't tell if Miller's plan had worked. Couldn't tell which direction the gunfire was coming from. It was constant, deafening, and started the instant he entered the cross corridor. And then just as he's about to get to the other side, a burst of bullets caught him in the armour, over his ribs, and slammed him into the corridor wall with a spine-jarring crack. He dragged himself the rest of the way, as bullets continued to hit all around his legs, one of them passing through the meaty part of his calf. Just paraphrasing this part of the chapter. "It's still alive?" Miller nodded. "Got shot. Arms broke. Keep moving." And they pull each up together and they run into the lift. And they press the button, and as they ride, hopefully to find the Rocinante and co., they hum the tune to themselves. Holden punched the button for the Rocinante's berth and waited for the elevator to stop at a blank grey airlock door with no ship beyond it. That would be when he could have finally had permission to lie down on the floor and die. He looked forward to that moment when his exertions could end with a relief that would have still surprised him if he'd been capable of surprise. Miller let go of him and slid down the lift wall, leaving a blood trail on the shiny metal and ending in a pile on the floor. The man's eyes were closed. He could have almost been sleeping. Holden watched the detective's chest rise and fall in ragged, painful breaths that grew smoother and more shallow. Eventually they get to the spaceship, and obviously, because we're only halfway through the book, which I should have celebrated. But anyway, they get through it. And then they get to the door slide open. Amos stood in the airlock on the other side, an assault rifle in each hand and 2 belts of magazines for the rifle slung on his shoulders. He looked Holden up and down, once, then glanced over to Miller, and back again. "Jesus, Captain, you look like shit." And we're done. So a little one there. A bit of contrived action, but it's always fun to have it in the gang. Holden and Miller just kind of working together with the dynamic of Holden not wanting to kill people, Miller kind of respecting him, setting the boundaries. And then obviously Amos looking cool, doing a fucking, what film it is now, the double bazooka, but yeah, 2 assault rifles covered in bullets. And stating the obvious. So yeah, a fun one that. I hope you have a lovely week.